Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, Phishing and Social Engineering in 2018 is the worst yet to come. I'm Stu Showerman, CEO and founder at KnowBe4, and before we get started, I'd like to go over a few items so you know how to participate in today's event. You're lucky to get in. We've hit the 1,000. I see lots of pop-ups on my screen here that indicate, sorry, you couldn't get in. We will send everyone an email with a link to the recorded version and also an attachment with the PDF. So before we get started, you'll have the opportunity to submit text questions by typing them into the questions pane on the control panel. And you may send in your questions at any time during the presentation. And we'll follow up on any remaining questions after the webinar. So let's get started with today's presentation. It's 35 slides. We are going to go fairly quickly through all this, and just pay attention. There's tons of stuff. So here we go. First, okay, who am I? I hope you know me. I'm a serial entrepreneur. This is my 5th startup. I founded KnowBe4 after building the Viper antivirus platform. We have about 350 employees and expect to be over 500 by the end of next year. And what we have been doing all along is create system admin tools and security tools for IT pros. So, KnowBe4, in a nutshell, we're now the world's most popular platform for awareness training. We have 14,000 customers worldwide. I started the company in 2010. Our first version 1.0 came online in April 2011. And we help you train your employees to make smarter security decisions to allow you to create that human firewall, which truly is your effective last line of defense when all your other filters fail, which inevitably they will. So, what are we going to cover? Understanding the current threat landscape, the scary new threats and innovations. Those are going to be fun. What can you do to make your organization a harder target? And how to create your human firewall. So here we go with the first one. Mike Tyson had it right. Once you get that infection and they get in and you have a data breach, it's no fun. And how do the bad guys generally do this? They go for the humans because that is the low-hanging fruit. And it's also saving them a lot of time. So let's have a look at that threat landscape and see how this particular thing develops. You got 5 bubbles over to the right: email, social media, the trends, then the criminal groups and the attack vectors. We'll go in each of these just for a little bit. Again, you will get this slide deck. On request, you can get an editable version of the PowerPoint. So you can use these slides for your own budget proposals. But email, top right, phishing, spear phishing, BEC is for business email compromise. That's what the FBI calls it. We tend to call it CEO fraud, same thing. These are the things that are immediately damaging your organization. Social media and internet. Well, social media gets used for recon, fake profiles, watering hole attacks, meaning compromised pages or whole sites, and then the breach data like Equifax recently. That's a horrendous amount of data that the bad guys can use. The current trends, those we will go into much more detail a little further down, so stay tuned. The criminal groups, there's a whole ecosystem. You can even call it a pyramid with the very, very high-end nation states up top, and then further down becomes your very high organized crime, your then lower your script kiddies, and it's still rapidly developing into a more cohesive underground economy. More on that later too. And then you have your attack vectors. Physical on site. This is your slipping in through the back door, piggybacking or tailgating as we call it. Your endpoint, your mobile, your network, your cloud, your IoT. There's a multitude of ways that people can get in. Now, this is a big confusing mess. How does it look when you boil it down to something simple? Well, this is the main picture. The blue line is malware, that's the bottom. That comes through your IM messaging. Not very big problems, never has been. So never mind messaging. Yeah, there might be a malicious link in a message, but don't have to worry too much about that. What you need to worry about is web and email. As you can see, the orange reddish line has taken over roughly 2014 and is now the number one way that your network gets infiltrated. Email is still the number one. Web is not far after though. Now, how do the bad guys get in? Here's your classic cyber kill chain, which goes from recon to weaponization, then delivery. And delivery is already where you, in the sense of, for instance, business email compromise, it's only 1, 2, and 3. And the exploitation is a human, so you jump straight to 7. But if you look at this on a machine basis, meaning malware, recon, weaponization, delivery, it's usually through a spear phishing attack. Then you do the exploit, you install the malware hooks up with command and control, and now the system is owned and they're in. And here comes the fun part of today. What scary new threats and innovations are we going to see? Well, scary threat number 1 is, of course, ransomware. I have a couple of points here that we're going to go over. It's not going anywhere. Ransomware is going to grow exponentially and mutate to gain further traction. You'll see a rise in attacks that also exfiltrate data, allowing the bad guys a second way to ransom data through the threat of exposure. And additionally, ransomware as a service will continue to grow and will be the source of a significant percentage of attacks next year. And that's the newbies who want to get into the business. And it's really simple to do it. Then the next bullet is custom-made ransomware attacks that really focus on the very high-value targets. You're talking hospitals, and they get shut down basically all machines at the same time, hundreds of them, and very high ransoms. A new thing that we expect in 2018 is that ransomware will be used to shut down point-of-sale systems, and that blocks you in literally getting cash in the door, so even more motivation to pay. Ransomware will increasingly use other attack vectors than email, which is still number 1 at this time. And you kind of have to understand a little bit of background. Is the black market for ransomware is cutthroat. You can now buy kits for $10. And then only $3,500 for a fully customized ransomware kit, which really allows you to make hundreds of thousands or more. Let's have a look at scary threat number 2, which is what we call pseudo ransomware. It looks like ransomware, it walks like ransomware, but it really is a distraction. And what happens in the background silently is the bad guys try to get in, and the whole ransomware attack is nothing but trying to divert your attention. And then, of course, you can also see an increase in multi-vector social engineering attacks that are leveraging smishing, which is text, and phishing, which is voice, along with traditional phishing, email, social engineering techniques. We are actually working on that ourselves in-house with a beta called Ada. More about that later. So, scary new threat number 3. We're now talking phishing bots and intelligent scraping of social media and the dark web. Those kinds of things are making automated spear phishing a very real, very hard to identify problem. So the amount of data stolen in the mega breaches over the past year, especially Equifax, just makes it so easy to automate mass spear phishing attacks that are both very detailed and very effective social engineering attacks. So those are definitely something you're going to watch in 2018. Scary threat number 4 is extortion scams with a long tail. So what on earth do we mean with that? Well, it's bad enough to have your data held hostage until you pay a ransom. But some scams are going to extend that timeline, creating a long-term or lingering extortion situation that could be an ongoing nightmare for both organizations and individual internet users. An example for this is a current ransomware strain that demands nude photos of the victim as payment, which of course opens the door for continued blackmail. True, this has happened. In a corporate environment, it gets worse. That could be demands to give up your customer data or your customer credentials to get your data back. So now you haven't exposed your own data, but your customer's information as well. This is the kind of thing that will hit accounting and legal offices. And so this type of attack is also a clear example of a data breach that requires you to disclose to authorities with all hassle related to that. And then one last one, you can expect micro ransomware, which is extortion one document at a time. So let's have a look at number 5. This tactic isn't necessarily new, but you will see more of it. Search results tampering that drop users on a site that has been compromised with an exploit kit. And for instance, current example, there's a security camera called FOSCAM, F-O-S-C-A-M. So Cisco reported on, hey, this thing is full of leaks. They wrote a report, and so that got published. And what happened? The bad guy said, ooh, we're going to create a page as well. And they used black SEO techniques to get these links way up in the organic page ranks on Google. So the second link, and I do not suggest you try this at home, kids. The second link, if you search for FOSCAM, is malicious. And you go there, and it claims to be Microsoft, and your machine is infected with ransomware and porn, and you have to call this number. And if you, of course, do that, you talk to a fully criminal call center. So if you have users in, for instance, regulated industries like financials, insurance, and healthcare with a lot of PII, you have to be careful with this stuff. Scary threat number 6. Mobile. And there's more mobile coming, but 2018 will show a major switch from hacking computers to hacking smartphones. I'm sure you don't know, but 35% of people now using their smartphone for online banking are so-called mobile-first users. And those are going to be the prime targets for fraud. So cybercriminals will use both previously successful and brand new malware families to steal user banking credentials in many creative ways. In 2017, this year, we saw a malware family called SVPang they really upgraded their code. So this is going to be happening more in 2018. New features, smarter, more devious. So, for instance, just as an example, at the latest DEF CON, an exploit was found that potentially could compromise the hardware of over 1 million cell phones. So mobile is something you need to watch out for. And then a little bigger picture. The European Union recently declared that a bad cyber attack, heavy with consequences, is an act of war, and they would come back with appropriate response. So this will just escalate things further. You will see false flag operations. You will see more cyber propaganda operations. This is also called PSYOPs or black PR. That are basically engineered to spark conflict between countries and undermine democracy and destabilize trust globally. These are the kinds of things you will see mid-year, of course, 2018 midterm elections. You can count on this stuff coming out. And this is also clickbait that your users need to watch out for. Then we have something, this is a bonus. We came up with a couple of strictly technical, interesting attacks that you do need to watch out for. I'm going to only pick up one or two. The one that's interesting is the SIM swap attack, the third bullet. That hijacks a target's cell service for a short time. So what happens here, the bad guys use pretexting. They call the mobile operator to switch a SIM on the account of the target. So the SIM is in the attacker's phone. So once the attacker gets the code, I'm talking the MFA code now, texted and gets intercepted, the SIM card number is switched back to the original number so that the target, your user possibly, your CFO, has no clue this is happening. In the meantime, the attacker has both the actual code to log in plus the MFA code and can just get into the account. So two-factor in some cases is not enough. The other thing that I want to just cover for a moment is the last one, the evil twin, Wi-Fi spoofing. We all know about the Wi-Fi spoofing. You get a little device that sits in the middle. It has a bigger signal. It emulates the wireless access point, and your user's device just automatically connects to the stronger signal, and bam, there's the guy who sits in the middle and who can see everything that your user does. Now this is going to go up to not just Wi-Fi, but spoofing an actual cell tower. This has been done by the authorities for a long time. This was actually how Kevin Mitnick was actually caught. But now the bad guys can use this and essentially spoof a cell tower. So you got to watch out for that and have users be aware that this can happen and not use a cell or a mobile device for highly confidential kind of information. And then IoT devices, boy, that's a dumpster fire. There is so much out there that is completely insecure. So especially with IoT devices, you want to make sure that you deploy only devices with secure boot and secure firmware updates, and use cryptographic code signing to make sure the device only runs code from trusted parties. I can do a whole webinar just on that. So here's the fun slide. This wild ass guesses slide. You can just take a second and read these through. A new crypto mining worm using NSA code will spread the steal CPU cycles. You can pretty much count on that. It's just a matter of making sure that you patch your network so that these, SMB kind of attacks don't get through. The bullet number 3, there was a CC cleaner incident recently where the bad guys essentially tunneled into the servers of the developer and plugged in a backdoor so that everyone who downloaded the latest version was backdoored. So you have to think with this and make sure that your own admin tools are not compromised. And then this is also a wild ass guess, but a major home automation service like Apple Echo or HomeKit from Apple or Google Home may be attacked, and then you subtly order 100 of some kind of product that you never asked for. So home automation, I would be careful. And let's have a look at what you can do to make your organization a harder target for cybercrime. So here are 8 things to consider to become a hard target. So with any ransomware infection, nuke that box from orbit, re-image from bare metal. Do not take the risk to just take off the malware because you do not know what happened with that machine. There may be a rootkit, so don't take any risks. Get yourself secure email and get yourself secure email and web gateways, which cover URL filtering, and make sure they're tuned correctly. Obviously, patching religiously both your OS and your third-party apps. Third-party apps is a bit of a mixed bag, if not to say a crapshoot. The Flexera personal software inspector, that's Flexera. I have been using that myself with success. They have thousands of third-party apps and also what the latest version is. So they scan the machine and come back to you with, hey, these 16 apps are not actually on the latest rev. So that's a good little tool. Now, for endpoint security, but do not rely on your antivirus. Antivirus is actually decreasing in effectiveness. Find out which users do use sensitive information and enforce two-factor authentication. 6 is a human control. Make sure you step through your internal policy and procedures specifically related to financial transactions to prevent CEO fraud. We have stories, we have inside info that about 20% of these actually go through, especially in SMB, and it costs 20, 30, 40K. Number 7, make sure your firewall doesn't allow criminal traffic out to command and control servers. And 8, of course, leverage security awareness training and test your users. One suggestion that we have is work on your security budget to show it is based on measurable risk reductions, and try to eliminate overspending on point solutions targeted at just one threat or another. There is more in the notes of this slide. I'm going to continue with this, but once you get the deck, there's a couple of things you should read in the notes here. So, how to create that human firewall. Some of you know this. People not yet know before customer. The data breaches, literally, practically all of them start with a spear phishing attack. CEO fraud, W-2 scams, and ransomware cost organizations tons of money. So this is essentially ammo that you can use to get budget. Now, why is it so difficult to get that desired behavior? Well, 3 truths. BJ Fogg, 3 truths about human nature. We're lazy, social, and creatures of habit. And we need to change some of that behavior. Well, how do you do that? You want to change 2 or 3 behaviors at a time. You can't boil the ocean, but you can focus on a couple of really high-risk behaviors and pick those up. And here is a sobering truth. Your awareness program and your content are the visible face of your department to the rest of your company. And we are working with you to give you the best face that we can possibly do together. So, there are 4 stages of competence that you want to know about and step through. Is number 1 is unconscious incompetence. I don't know that I don't know something. 2, I know that I don't know something. 3, I know something, but I have to think about it as I do it. And that is where we want to be with our new school awareness training. And 4 is unconscious competence. And I don't think we'll ever get there, but we don't have to be. So let's focus on conscious competence, train them, drill them, and plan like a marketer and test like an attacker. So you have your training modules that you spread out over time. Time is the bottom arrow to the right. Then you have your corporate messaging that you weave in. Then you have your newsletters. Then you have your posters. And these are examples of a professional, mature awareness program, which you then lace again with your frequent phishing or automated social engineering testing, because social engineering could be text or voice. So this is how you plan this out. And planning this out, you can use something called the Automated Security Awareness Program, ASAP. I have on purpose let this thing drop off the page because, to show you there's more steps. You can go to our website, click on ASAP, and actually fill out 10 to 15 questions, and out rolls your fully mature awareness training program with a calendar, with what you do, lots and lots of help to get an awareness program actually in place. Now, we're getting to the end. 5 points to consider. Awareness in and of itself is only one piece of your defense in depth. You shouldn't do this alone. And you can't and shouldn't train on everything. Your users only care about things that they feel are relevant to them. So you have to make it real to them. And the ongoing process is help your employees make smarter security decisions. So those are 5 points to consider. Now here are 5 best practices. You want to have explicit goals. You want to get air cover from your C-level. You want to choose which behaviors you want to change. Take a year. It is really a marketing effort. And you want to fish frequently, at least once a month. And here are 5 key takeaways. You want to prioritize, make your messages and training relevant to your organization. You want to test frequently so that your users build secure reflexes. Use your metrics. Tell your story. The fish-prone percentage graph over time is a really good thing to show your C-levels and say, hey, this is why we spend the money and these are the results. And of course, you have to tailor it to your own organization. And again, you have to think like a marketer and act like an attacker. And phishing your users is actually fun. So, baseline test your users. Find out what your fish-prone percentage is. You train them. 2 months roughly is what this takes. Step everyone through training. And then you see that fish-prone percentage drop. You want to fish them, and then you want to see the results. We have just added something very cool. It's called Smart Groups, which allows you to automate workflows, but also this is a very strong ad hoc reporting tool that you can use to show management whatever they want to see. It's very interesting. You should check out the Smart Groups functionality. And then we are constantly adding resources for you. We have a domain spoof test that was just redone. So you can just talk to a rep. Within 2 minutes, you know if your email server is configured correctly. Often an unhappy surprise. We have free manuals, a free phishing security test, the ransom is great to find out if your workstation is actually protecting you against and I'm talking endpoint security here, is protecting you against ransomware. The Phish Alert button is super popular. We get thousands of those a day. And then you should try the weak password test. Interfaces with AD and shows you the percentage of accounts with weak passwords. You can learn more at our website at the /resources, and that actually gets us exactly to 30 minutes. Thank you very much for attending. We will send you the slide deck, and we will send you a link with the recording of this. So we hope to see you back next year in another one of these. I don't do many myself, but the big ones about the future, you can count on me. Thanks very much, and talk to you soon. Bye-bye.